do I want to send my kid to a brainwashing cult? Because that's what it is. And it's like, imagine you have a kid who leaves high school, straight A student, really smart, wants to do, and all of a sudden he gets involved in these soft sciences that have no future. Whether it's, I don't know, whatever studies you can it's like
women,
what it does.
women, but not spelled MEN. It's MYN, right?
Right. Well, I think correct spelling is a patriarchal construct.
Very true.
Why should you tell me what is the correct spelling of the word when a man probably wrote that dictionary?
Well, by the way,
I feel the same way about math.
That's why it's just wrong to correct somebody, and it's racist if they're speaking in the dialect of Ebonics, right? Because you are saying that their manner of speaking is grammatically incorrect. That's racist.
Isn't there a movement against math? I remember reading something about people saying, activists on campus saying that like the absolutes of math are patriarchal, and sexist. Like math is inherently sexist,
right? So
which is actually sexist against women. When you say that, because you're saying it's sexist against women, they're basically saying that women can't handle math because it's absolute.
Well, Lawrence,
have you seen this?
Yes, I have. So it's. I mean, I think I'll speak about the specific instance you're talking about, but I'll give you sort of the background of that kind of, inane stupidity. I think you're talking about Science Must Fall. And it was a bunch of social activists at University of Cape Town who were, very, very, post-apartheid, science is a Western way of thinking and so on. And you have to decolonize your mind, right?
Yes.
Now, that idiocy actually stems from one of the, quote, intellectual movements that has infected Western universities, postmodernism, right? So postmodernism is rightly referred to as an anti-science movement because it takes the central foundation of what science is, which is there are regular patterns in nature that we try to humbly, with humility, understand as scientists as best as we can. And they say, no, that's a completely wasted effort because everything is subjective. Everybody has their own way of knowing. There is no privileged way of knowing as per the scientific method. So stop this, you racist Nazi. So that's what started all this. And for 40 years, you've been inoculating at UC Berkeley and other schools, kids with postmodernism. And then you end up with the science must fall. But the same people who say science must fall take a plane that is based on principles of aerodynamics to their conference to spew the bullshit that science must fall. That irony, they miss it.
Yeah, it's amazing. But again, I go back to, there has to be an alternative to this. If campuses aren't going to change, then there has to be, can't there be a parallel universe of campuses where you go, okay, you're not going to have any of this deconstruction bullshit. You're not going to have any of this postmodern crap. You're actually going to learn the humanities. You're going to learn a trade. I mean, that's what Peter Thiel and people should be thinking about. Like, what's the alternative? I know he says don't go to college,
right?
But I think I remember he was going to pay $100,000 to students not to go to school, which is actually a pretty cool thing. I would have taken that definitely. I probably would have ended up drunk somewhere, like on an island, and you never would have heard from me again. It wouldn't have worked for me. I needed discipline. Right. But I think that there has to be at some point another path because they're now indoctrinating students into a useless future.
Right.
Like, what are they going to do? Well, you're no longer a productive member of society if all you do is file grievances.
Well, the bottom line is, education is, of course, to learn something in terms of the knowledge base. You have to learn, if you're taking differential equations in a math program, you have to learn what differential equations is. But more generally, you just have to learn how to critically think, right? So independently of whether you use the humanities to achieve that goal or neurobiology, the idea is that there is a framework for reason, whether we call it the scientific method or use logic or use some other mechanism. You're teaching people how to critically think, irrespective of the discipline that they're in. So to speak to your point, any discipline that is an affront to reason and science is anti-intellectual, is fraudulent, and should be kicked out of the campuses.
Yeah. Here's a funny story. When I was at Berkeley, I learned that I had to play the game, which was deconstruction.
Oh, yes.
So it didn't matter what the author's intent was. You can apply a different intent. And I had my thesis was on Herman Melville. And so I did it. I went into the library and I looked at it and I found all this stuff on like the homoerotic themes of Herman Melville. So I wrote my thesis on that. It was like it should have gotten an A, but somehow I had the only professor who wouldn't buy that bullshit. He was an old school humanities professor. He looked like a sailor. And so I get my paper back expecting to sail through, and I think I got like a C minus. And I'm looking down, and all he's writing in the margin is, "You got to be kidding me! Come on!"
I like this guy. I'd like to bring him on the show. Is he still alive?
He must have been okay. He was talking 83. He was probably in his 60s. So I don't
Okay.
think he's around.
Okay.
But I always think about that. I was thinking about I should Google this dude because he saw right through me. He saw, maybe he didn't know I was playing a game and he just thought that I believed it. But he was just like, you're completely nuts.
You know,
and it was right because I wasn't using my mind. I wasn't.
There's a professor who I think is retired now, and I tried to reach out to him, but he's Professor Emeritus. He's also in his 80s. His name escapes me right now, but he's a professor of philosophy at Princeton who wrote a book, which if you haven't read, you need to go and buy it after we get off. It's called, and this is a very highbrow guy, it's called On Bullshit, where he does a philosophical analysis of bullshit in the grand sense, you know, all sorts of sort of cancerous, fraudulent movements and ideas. And I just thought, what a brilliant title. So anyways, check him out.